Hello everyone. Today we will be having a short discussion module on clinical frailty scale. Before we move any further, I would like to give a context on why we are having this discussion. So, as you all know, during this time of 2020 coronavirus pandemic, we are having a large number of patients presenting to emergency room with severe acute respiratory illness. However, we have limited resources such as ICU beds or ventilator, and it is not always possible to allocate these resources to everyone. So a decision sometimes has to be taken in emergency room on which patient would be most benefited by these resources. So a common misconception is that older a person is, less likely the person is likely to get benefit from ventilator or ICU beds. So in geriatrics, we have a concept called frailty, which can be used as a helping tool in this matter. So we designed a study in this matter. We designed a clinical frailty scale as a predictor of mortality in older adults with severe acute respiratory illness, a prospective observation study. Dr. Praveen Narwal, the head of Department of Emergency Medicine, and Dr. Naya Jamshed, Associate Professor of Emergency Medicine, is one of the co-investigators in this project, and the principal investigator is Dr. Avinash, and the head of Department of Geriatric Medicine, Dr. Day, along with me and my colleague Dr. Pramod is co-investigators. So let's start the discussion. Frailty is basically one of the geriatric syndrome, which is a consequence of cumulative decline in many physiological systems during a lifetime, which leads to increased vulnerability to both internal and external stressors and can result in increased risk of disability and death. So, a easier way to understand frailty is that it is basically a decline in homeostatic reserve or a physiological reserve. So, as we can see in the accompanying graph, as the patient performance status decreases, the patient goes into a more frailer status, pre-frail and then frail. And as the patient's frailty status increases, the higher risk of complications increases. So, what are the factors which we need to consider while assessing frailty? First is the comorbidities, the number of comorbidities. Second is the number of medication. The more number of medication the patient is on, it suggests that the patient is having a increased number of complication, increased number of comorbidities, and it is one of the indirect indicator of that the patient may be more frail. The third is status of control. For example, a patient who is having uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, NYHA class 4, MMRC grade 4 dyspnea will be having more frail status. Second will be the frequency of hospitalization. The more patient has a history of hospitalization, the more chances the patient is more frail. Nutrition and general body build, malnourished or obese both come under frail category. Amount and type of daily exercises or physical activity. So this is also one of the good markers to look for frailty. If a person is very fit, he will be able to do regular exercises, regular activity daily. On the other hand, a person who is more frail will be bed bound and will not be able to do any kind of activity. Cognition and mood is also indicator of frailty. So a person who has dementia, mild dementia, moderate dementia, advanced dementia, will be more frail. The severe the severe the dementia of the patient or the poorer the cognition is, the higher the frailty of the patient is. Similarly, a depressed person or a severe anxious patient or anxious person or person who has pre-existing some psychiatric disorders will be having a more frailty status. Now, activities of daily living is one of the good indicators of frailty. So, we divide the activities of daily living into two components: basic activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living. Basic deal with the daily day-to-day activities such as feeding, toilet use, whether the person is continent or incontinent, whether the person can bathe, dress, or groom on his or her own, and what is the mobility, whether the person is able to move around the house or can walk up and down the stairs or can transfer from bed to and sit on the chair. So these are the basic activities of daily living. In instrumental activities of daily living, we talk about which are required by a person to maintain his social life and daily life. It includes household chores such as cooking and cleaning, whether the person is able to take medication on his own or he needs to be reminded by someone, whether the person is able to manage finances on his or her own, shopping, traveling. All of these activities of daily living have to be compared from a previous baseline. So it is possible that a man was that a 90 or that a 60-year-old man who was earlier not doing any cooking will not be able to do cooking now also. On the other hand, similarly, if a person who was able to cook earlier now is not able to cook, it shows that the person has lost some amount of ADLs and should then be considered that the patient may be more frail. Last point is social support. It is also one of the indicators. If a person who is living in a good family support with a good social support, obviously the person will be more robust as compared to a person who is living alone with no social support. So now let's see what is not frailty. So there is a lot of misconception that key what is not frailty. So as we just mentioned, what are the factors we consider during assessing frailty? So the factors which we have to remember that the common misconceptions are that an older person is supposed to be a frail person. It is not right concept. Though age is one of the factors for frailty, but it does not have a linear relationship. So it doesn't mean that a 90-year-old will be more frail than a 60-year-old person. Secondly, it is not defined by the severity of clinical presentation at emergency department. So a person who comes to emergency room with a grade 4 dyspnea is not automatically become severe frail. The frailty of that person will be determined by his baseline status, or the status of his illness, or the status of his health 2 weeks before, in the last 2 weeks. So if the person was fit or robust 2 weeks back and has undergone an acute exacerbation of COPD in last 2 weeks, then the person will be considered into a moderately fit person or well fit person, rather than in a moderately frail or severe frail. The third is a physical disability. So a person who is having a congenital deformities, or person who has had amputation or any compressive myelopathy will have some amount of physical disability that will restrict the person's physical activity, but doesn't mean the person is frail. Again, this will help. This will obviously help in. This will be one of the factors, but not a very major factor or the dominant factor in assessing frailty. So if the person's physical activity, the person was able to maintain his physical activities despite being amputated or being compressive myelopathy, the person is able to do his activities of daily living. Doesn't mean that physical disability is adding to the frailty. Then last will be quality of life. So it is again a common misconception that quality of life is also also an indicator of frailty. Quality of life may be determined by frailty, but quality of life doesn't determine frailty. So it's a inverse relationship. So frailty determines quality of life, not the other way around. So now move on to the clinical frailty scale. Though we can measure frailty by a number of tools and scale, we have chosen this clinical frailty scale because it is the subjective scale, and it is the least time consuming and most easier tool to use, especially in the emergency room. So in this scale, you can classify the patient on a scale, or grade the patient on a scale of 1 to 9. From 1, it is very fit, then well, then managing well, vulnerable, mildly frail, moderately frail, severely frail, and very severely frail, and the last, terminally ill. We'll go through each of these scores one by one with some examples. So let's move to the first score, clinical frailty scale, 1, which is very fit. So very fit is referred to the people who are robust, active, energetic, and motivated. These people commonly exercise regularly, and they are among the fittest of their age. So let me give you an example. 79-year-old male, married, well-built, lawyer, with no known comorbidities, non-smoker, no non-alcoholic, and with no previous history of hospitalization, is able to perform all these indoor and outdoor activities independently, and does a combination of exercises like running, swimming, weight training, or badminton 3 to 5 times a week. So obviously, this person is one of the fittest for his age group, and therefore will be considered as very fit. Second is well. So this category refers to the people who have no active disease symptoms but are less fit than category 1. Often they exercise or are very active occasionally, example seasonally. Let's look at the example. 65-year-old female, married, homemaker, with no known comorbidities, no history of any addiction or hospitalization, is able to perform all indoor and outdoor activities independently. But she goes for walking only 1 to 2 times a week. So the person is well active and is able to manage on a day-to-day basis. We have classified this patient as in Frailty Scale 2 because of the level of physical activity or level of exercise the person is doing daily. So it is less than as compared to the category 1, but still able to well maintain himself or herself. The third is maintaining well or managing well. So this category refers to the people whose medical problems are well controlled but are not regularly active beyond routine walking. So a 73-year-old male, overweight, married, businessman with a known case of hypertension, well controlled on medication, uses visual and hearing aids, able to perform all indoor and outdoor activities independently, lives a sedentary lifestyle and goes on morning walk 1 to 2 times a week. That is also a slow walk. So as we can see in this example, the person is overweight, patient has comorbidities, but these are well controlled. So it is important. It's not only the comorbidities; it's the level of control. So though the person has visual and hearing impairment and hypertension, but all of these are well controlled on medication and hearing and visual aids. The person is able to do indoor and outdoor activities independently, and but the person has a sedentary lifestyle. So all of these make us think that the patient is in the Frailty Scale 3, where the person is able to manage well, though having some medical problems. Let's move on to the now in intermediate or borderline categories, which is vulnerable. So vulnerable category is defined as a person who is, while not dependent on others for daily help, often symptoms limit activities. A common complaint is being slowed up and / or being tired during the day. So we see an example: a 68-year-old male, married, retired teacher, who is an ex-smoker with a history of COPD, Gold B. That means the person has had one hospitalization during last 1 year and has a MMRC of grade 2 dyspnea. Performs all indoor activity on his own and can do outdoor activities but is limited by shortness of breath. Performs yoga at home occasionally, but in general avoid outdoor physical activity. So as we can see in this example, the person has COPD and MMRC grade 2, which limits significant his outdoor physical activities. Though the person can do indoor activities, and the person feels tired or slowed up while doing strenuous physical activities. So this is now vulnerable category. So now we move on to the frail category. So this is start from the mildly frail. So these people often have more evident slowing and need help in high orders IADS, such as finances, transportation, heavy housework, medications. And typically mild frailty progressively impairs shopping and walking outside alone, meal preparation, and housework. So we have an example here: 74-year-old female, underweight, widow, homemaker, with a background history of hypertension, diabetes, heart failure, and NYHA class 2, on multiple medications with mild hearing and vision impairment, can perform some indoor activities, however needs some help in household chores. Need assistance for activities like traveling, shopping, and avoid strenuous physical activities. So as we can see, the patient again has some comorbidities: diabetes, hypertension, NYHA class 2, heart failure. And here we have mentioned that here we can see the patient has hearing and vision impairment, mild hearing and vision impairment. Now, as we saw in earlier example in clinical frailty scale 3, that if a person has well managed physical disabilities, doesn't make the person fail. So here the person unfortunately had mild hearing and vision impairment, which is uncorrected. So that is also one of the signs that we have to look for. The other thing that we have mentioned that we can see is the underweight. The person is the female is underweight, so that is also important, and she is also widowed. That means that there will be some amount of less social support. But the person is able to do some amount of indoor activities, but need help in heavy household work, such as it's possible that the person might require help in some amount of cooking or cleaning of home, or heavy or lifting heavy objects. So we'll consider this person in a clinical fatigue scale of 5, mildly frail. So next example, moderately frail. These people need help with all outside activities and with keeping house. Inside, they often have problems with stairs and need help with bathing, and might need minimal assistance with dressing. So as we saw in last examples, now we have moved towards the looking at ADLs. So in last examples, we looked at instrumental of activities of daily living, IADLs, such as heavy household work, finances, transportation. In this, we'll go more further, and we'll look at now basic activities of daily living along with the IADLs. So in this, this 68-year-old male, widower, retired accountant, ex-smoker, known case of hypertension, CAD, COPD, Gold D. That means there has been greater than one admission last 1 year, and history suggests of depression, and requires help to move around house and climbing stairs, avoid outdoor activities except for hospital visit and important social events, and require minor assistance in basic activities such as dressing and bathing. So we can see the thing that we have to look for, first of all, is the person is widower. Secondly, the number of comorbidities. There are a number of comorbidities. The person has 5 comorbidities: hypertension, CAD, COPD, depression. And we can see COPD is a Gold D, and that means there are more than one hospitalization. The patient also have a depression, which again adds to the poor state of the patient. We can see that the patient is not able to do much of the outdoor activities except for the hospital visits and the important social event, and even requires assistance, some minor assistance in basic activities. So since it's a minor assistance in basic activities, so we'll keep the patient in moderately frail, frailty scale 6. Next will be the severely frail, a clinical frailty scale 7. So these patients are completely dependent for personal care. It may be because of physical or cognitive disability. Even so, they seem stable and not at high risk of dying. So this is the important line, that they seem stable and not at high risk of dying, at least within the 6 months. So this is the difference between 7 and 8, which we will discuss in the next slide. This is 77-year-old female, morbidly obese, widow, homemaker, known case of diabetes, CKD4, idiopathic Parkinson disease, which is in advanced stage, and needs major assistance for all indoor activities, and need regular hospital visits for drug optimization, wheelchair bound, and requires major assistance for all basic activities including toileting and feeding. So in this we can see the patient has an advanced stage Parkinson disease, which is limiting his mobility and in all his indoor and outdoor activities. The person is wheelchair bound and requires significant amount of assistance in his both basic and instrumental daily livings. So but the person looks stable, though the person is in advanced stage of Parkinson. Looking at the history, it seems the patient is not at high risk of dying within 6 months, and we will classify this patient in the frailty scale of 7. This is a clinical frailty scale of 8, very severely frail. Now these patients are completely dependent and approaching the end of life. So this is an important differentiation between 7 and 8. That these patients are completely dependent, are approaching the end of life, and they are typically not able to recover even from a minor illness. That means a minor urinary tract infection or a mild pneumonia is also can be fatal for these patients. One thing that you have to understand, that these frailty scales and status, frailty scale is a subjective scale. So it is possible that you might be classifying a person as 7 and the other person might classify it 8 or 6. So it is a subjective scale, and it is one of the drawbacks of this scale. Nonetheless, it has been observed that most of the physicians are able to make a appropriate uh, classification of gradation with the plus minus of 1. So which we do take into account considering the drawback. So in this example, 72-year-old male, retired clerk, widower, who had known case of diabetes, hypertension, CAD, CKD5, and severe Alzheimer's dementia, with a history of recurrent UTI, LRTI, and multiple hospital admissions. The person is bedbound and completely dependent on others for all activities, including toileting and feeding. So the things to look out for here is the severe Alzheimer's dementia and CKD5 with a history of recurrent hospital admission. So it looks like the patient is in advanced stage of illness, and with a multiple hospital admission, multiple infection, and with a poor baseline status, it is possible. It looks like a frailty scale of 8. Because Alzheimer's terminal dementia or advanced Alzheimer's dementia has a very poor prognosis, and typically the patients are not able to survive more than 6 months to 1 year. So we'll keep the person in frailty scale of 8. So next is the clinical frailty scale of 9, which is terminally ill. Now these patients are approaching the end of life, and this category applies to persons with a life expectancy of less than 6 months who are not otherwise evidently frail. So it is very important to understand that it is not, though we have seen 1 to 8 in a progressive amount of gradation, that 9 is a special category which refers to a person who is not otherwise frail but may be having a short life expectancy because of other factors. So commonly these patients have malignancies. So as seen in this example, 65-year-old female, homemaker, widow, diagnosed with stage 4 gallbladder cancer on palliative chemotherapy, though she is mobile but needs assistance for feeding and toileting. So here to look out for the stage 4 gallbladder cancer, which we all know has a very poor prognosis. So that is why the person will be in clinical frailty scale of 9. So now we'll move on to some other examples, and I would like you to take to look at these cases and make a score on your own, and then we'll discuss what is the actual score of this patient. So okay, so before that we'll also discuss scoring frailty in people with dementia. So the degree of frailty corresponds to the degree of dementia, as I mentioned earlier. Mild dementia, moderate dementia, severe dementia corresponds to the degree of frailty. So mild dementia, a person may be forgetting details of a recent event, though able to remember the event itself and repeating the same question or story, and there might be some social withdrawal. In moderate dementia, recent memory is very impaired, and even though they seemingly can remember the past life, which is remote memory, but recent memory is significantly impaired. They can do personal care, though may require some amount of prompting or reminding. For example, they might require some reminder that they need to go to the bathroom. In severe dementia, they cannot do anything. They cannot do personal care without any help. So let's look at the some more examples. So this is a 67-year-old male who has mild osteoarthritis of knee, well controlled on pain medication, but has to use cane while walking. So I'll give you a few seconds to consider what the frailty status of this patient. So I'll put this patient in a vulnerable scale, that is clinical frailty scale of 4. The reason being the person is able to do, though the person is requires some walking aid, but the person is well controlled, is well able to do his activities of daily living, able to go outdoor on his or her own, but requires some amount of assistance in walking aid. Let's move to the next example. This is a 60-year-old man living with his wife and has a history of severe osteoarthritis of hip and requires support for walking. he cannot travel or shop on his own. So again, what do you think will be the frailty status of this patient? So I'll keep this person as a clinical frailty scale of 6, moderately frail. The reason being that the person requires help in going outside, they requires help in going outside home, and requires, and looking at the history with the severe osteoarthritis of hip, requires some amount of help even in his home. So, such as because severe osteoarthritis of hip, he will require help in moving around, especially in climbing stairs. We'll keep the person in a clinical frailty scale of 6, moderately frail. The next example, so this is a 73-year-old couple who have just returned from a vacation in Spain, can do all their activities on own and goes for slow walk almost daily. So this is a simple one. We'll keep this person as a clinical frailty scale of 2, that is in well category. Uh, though there, again I mentioned it is a subjective scale, so some of you might consider this at 1, which is very fit, but that varies from person to person. The reason that I have considered 2 in this case is the reason the person goes for slow walk. They just slow walk almost daily. So the amount of physical activity the person is going for slow walking only, and that too also not daily. So that is why I've given 2, and that is subjective. That is why what reflects the subjective nature of this scale. So the next example, this is a 65-year-old lady with known case of diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease. She has mild forgetfulness and sometimes need to be reminded about her medication. So I'll give the give the score of 5, mildly frail. The reason being, though the person is able to do most of her basic activity of daily living, she needs to be reminded about her medication, which does come under instrumental activities of daily living. And the person, I mentioned, the lady has mild forgetfulness, so I'll keep it as mildly frail. So this is again a well evident example from the picture itself. This is a 75-year-old grandmother with well-controlled hypertension who goes daily for brisk walking and plays with her grandson. And obviously, you all would have guessed till now that this is one very fit. The reason that we have given very fit because the person she goes for daily for brisk walking and is obviously able to keep up with the energy of a 9-year-old grandson. So we have kept her, given her a scale of 1. So this is the last example, and again I think most of you would have guessed the frailty scale. So I'll give you a short history. There is an 80-year-old widowed lady who lives with her daughter. She's a known case of atrial fibrillation and osteoarthritis of knee, and recently had a stroke, after which she complains of left-sided weakness with vascular dementia and is now dependent on her daughter for most of her 8 years. So as you would have guessed, the score for this, we have given a score of 7, severely frail. The reason being the person is significantly dependent on her caregiver for most of her activity daily living. Though the person has dementia, but looking at the history, and it is possible, and again this is a subjective nature, it will require some amount of examination and history from the caregiver also. It is possible the person looks stable, and we have given a score of 7, severely frail. Before ending this presentation, I would like to again emphasize on one point. All of these scoring that we have given for these patients are not based on the severity of illness at the time of presentation to the emergency room. All of these are based on their baseline health status. So this is very important to remember that while assessing frailty, we have to look at the history. We have to look at the baseline frailty status rather than the current severity of illness. And I would like to end the slide now, and thank you for your patience, and we hope for your support in this project. For any other further details, you can feel free to contact me. My email ID is doc sunny sunny single singhal @gmail.com, and you can contact me at my cell phone 9013590869 for any kind of information or details regarding this.